So hi, I'm going to start with this slide because actually this talk's kind of an experiment. I write one talk a year, and then I iterate on it throughout the year, and then I throw it all away and start over. And this is the first time I've ever given this talk, which is kind of cool. And so you're seeing the very first, probably terrible iteration of something that will probably be better eventually. So anyway, hi. I'm Cap. I'm the VP of Design here at BuzzFeed. And as the VP of Design, I give a lot of talks. I'm on a lot of panels. And almost inevitably, whenever I'm in Q&A or something, I get asked a question somewhere along the lines of like, what is it like being VP of Design? Or like another way people ask this sometimes is like, what's a typical day like for you? And actually, it's funny, I get asked this internally sometimes too. And it feels a little bit like that scene in Office Space. Like, what do you actually do? So I thought I'd just show everybody. This is the kind of premise of this talk, so I'm just going to show you what it's like to be me. And I wanted to prep everybody mentally and emotionally. There's some things here that might scare you, like the very first thing, which is a photo of my desk. This is not staged. I decided to take a photo and I took it. I mean, we've all seen these amazing photos of designers' desks being so beautiful and pristine, and that's bullshit. Some noteworthy things on my desk. I have a textbook about facilitation I'm currently reading and highlighting like a nerd. I have a book on color theory I just bought, which I'm pretty pumped about. I have some cards, some like greeting cards that people have given me from like my birthday or whatever at BuzzFeed. I like to keep those around. They're very nice. I have nice cards I give other people. So I have like a set of these cards that say I owe you my firstborn, and I give them to people like finance and HR because sometimes you need stuff. They're not here. Yeah, they're not here. I have a bobblehead of myself that someone gave me at a conference, which I'm not allowed to take home because it would be weird to have it at home. So I keep it here. And then I have a receipt for drinks with the design team. I took them out, and I think I was supposed to turn this in 3 months ago, but maybe they'll pay me back eventually when I do get around to doing my job. So that's my desk. The other terrifying thing that I put into this talk that, again, prepare yourselves, I put a screenshot on my calendar for the week. And it looks, I mean, one of the designers said there's a lot of white space here. And I'm like, yeah, but the white space is like starts at 8 a.m. Like it ends at 8 a.m. and then starts again at like 6:30 p.m. So like this is my life. And this isn't even everything. So stuff gets added throughout the week as I go. I set it to private, actually, because I don't want people deciding for me what's important and what's not. And I have to actually very actively prune this thing. Like every Monday morning, I sit down and I kind of look at the week ahead and I try to I have to make decisions about what I'm going to do this week and what I'm not going to do this week. And so this is something I have to do all the time. And people see this and people look at my calendar even internally like, what the hell is happening here? Like what could possibly be on this calendar? So I counted it. And we're going to do that now. So the things on my calendar last week, this is last week, where I had 2 design critiques for an hour and a half each, totaling 3 hours for some of you math majors out there. I had 3 team lead meetings, and so I'm like a lead on different levels of teams. So I have a team lead meeting with the tech team. I have a team lead meeting with the design managers on my team that I manage. And then I also, for the last year and a half, have been managing the IT team, and so I have a team lead meeting for them as well. I did 5 mid-year reviews for people, so we just finished that process, and I had 5 of those to give just last week. I actually probably had a total of 8. And I spent another few hours, which I did not account for, just preparing for those to know what I was going to say, kind of read the feedback, really make sure I understood it before I talked to people about it. I was in 5 product strategy meetings, so I'm in a lot of these. I talk to people a lot about what they're working on, why they're working on it, making sure that the tactics are good, that we're going after the right data, that kind of thing. I had 9 recruiting meetings. Recruiting is one of the most important things I do. I hire a lot. I talk to a lot of people. These are interviews, coffee meetings, portfolio reviews, all sorts of stuff. Dan's gonna ask me later, so I'm just gonna answer now. We're hiring, so find one of those people that raised their hand and talk to them maybe after this, if you wanna work at BuzzFeed. And then the biggest number is I did 14 one-on-ones. These are meetings where I just meet with one other person, hence the name one-on-ones. And I did 14 of them, and I don't manage 14 people, so it's a mix of people I manage and then people that I feel like I need to keep in contact with like pretty regularly to make sure that I have information I need to do my job or to help people I manage do their job. So that's my calendar, and as I was going through it, I realized there was some like time missing. Like I realized there's a portion of my time I spend every week, a very significant portion of my time each week, doing an activity that's actually not on my calendar. And so I counted those up last week, and I wanted to talk about those. I had 15 moments last week where I was afraid. And this is where it takes a kind of dark turn, so I decided to change the theme. So actually last week, so I counted them, and I actually wrote them down every time I had like a thought where I was kind of afraid of something. And I decided to just share all of them with you. And so we're gonna like go through those. So the first one's, am I doing a good job? This is something that I thought last week more than once, which will, anyway, I just spoiled it. But I thought this last week, and I think we all have this feeling. Who has thought this in their daily life at some point? If you didn't put your hand up, you're a liar. And then I had this next thought, which is, am I doing what I said I would do? I obviously tell people I'm going to do stuff, or I promise I'll do stuff, and I always wonder if I fulfilled what someone was expecting of me, and I worry about that a lot. Are people on my team happy? This may not be that surprising, but I think about this a lot, and it concerns me, because I don't know every single person. I can't. There's too many people, and so to know exactly how someone's feeling at any given moment is impossible, and so this is something I think about. What if someone quits? I think about this, I have night terrors about this, you guys. And then following on, what would we do if someone quit? What would we do until we hired somebody? Holy crap. How could I make more time to deal with the work that needs to get done? How could I make time to recruit and make sure the design work still happens? What if we hire the wrong person? How would that affect the team? You can see this cascade of terribleness just happening. You're sitting at your desk, having a nice day, and then the first thought occurs to you, and it all just crumbles. And then thoughts I feel like I'm forgetting something. Which occurs to you, and you're like, maybe am I? And then the next terrible thought, which is, what am I forgetting? And you spend some time thinking about that, and then either you realize it's something, or you think it might be nothing, but it's still sitting with you. Did I choose the right meeting to go to? Like I said, my calendar is kind of insane. There are times where I am triple or quadruple booked on a given day, and I have to make a decision about what the right thing to do is, where I can have the highest impact. And it's hard for me to ever really know exactly what the right thing to do is. I'm taking my best guess based on some pretty bad algebra probably that I'm doing in my head about impact and what could possibly go wrong in meetings. Am I evaluating people fairly? Like I said, I had 5 mid-year reviews last week, but even just generally, am I evaluating everybody on my team fairly? Am I really thinking about them as individuals, against a rubric that makes sense and is as neutral as possible? I worry about this a lot, because it's something that's really important to me, especially this last week when I've been doing reviews. It's something I think about a lot. Am I even being helpful to, I go to these meetings, is it even worthwhile? What was I doing there? Am I useful to people? Do I even matter? I told you, it's really dark. It's just really, really dark. And then all the way back around to, am I doing a good job? Which is a lot more than once this week. So I've been thinking a lot about it lately, and about these fears, or these the things I've been afraid of, and how I think we all kind of feel this way. I think we all have these things we think about, or that we worry about a lot. And I'm actually not sure that a lot of people, even on my team, or amongst you all or whatever, people who see stuff I write on the internet or see me talking up here, I don't think people really ever consider that I'm going through stuff like this, or I'm worrying about it. Whether that's due to my title and people think I have my shit together, or because of how I put myself forward publicly, I just feel like this is an important thing to talk about. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about the fear. And how it can actually be a good thing if you're not being chased by velociraptors. And I wanted to start off talking about the fear by talking about the first time I realized that the fear was actually good for me. So a few years ago, before BuzzFeed, I actually worked at Etsy. And at Etsy, it's standard practice for everyone that is on the tech team to be able to deploy the website live to customers. So whether you're a designer or an engineer, you can push a button and whatever the changes are will go out to everyone. And this was a very I'd worked at small startups before where that was okay, But this was a place where, with millions and millions of people using the site, spending over $1 billion a year on the site. And like one bad deploy takes the site down. There was a CSS change once that took the site down for like many hours. And so that's a different story. But it's a very terrifying feeling. Like I was very worried of every time I hit that button, and in some cases actually actively tried to avoid hitting the button because I was afraid that I was going to break something or something would go wrong. And so one day I was talking to my friend Mike about it, who looks less terrifying in person, and and he'd worked at similar companies. He'd worked at Flickr. Who here remembers Flickr? You're all good people. And I was telling him about this fear I had. And so Flickr also had a similar system where anybody could like just push a button and push stuff out. And I was telling him about my fear of deploying and asked him how to get more confident about it. I wanted more confidence in what I was doing. And he told me that actually, like, contrary to what I thought, that I should never, ever deploy without the fear. Like, he's like, the fear was really important. To him, it meant that, like, you'd have someone else check your work. That, like, you would double check your own work. That you're more likely, if you're a little afraid of what you might do, that you'll, like, be more careful about what you're doing, that you're more likely to catch the mistakes before you, like, put them in front of people. In front of customers and stuff like that. And in fact, he said that not only this, but that like overconfidence, like the confidence thing, is more dangerous than being afraid. And there are some real world examples of this that when I show them to you, you'll all remember and be like, yes, Cap's right. So actually a really famous one is this one I'm about to play, and I'm not going to spoil it because you'll just know almost instantly what it is if there's any audio at all. Steve, let me ask you about the iPhone and the Zoom. No one can hear that, right? The Zoom? All right. We're going to just do a thing, because it's the right thing to do. I'm going to put my sound through the Crestron DisplayPort module, and then we will start again. Let me ask you about the iPhone and Zoom, if I may. Zoom is getting some traction, and Steve Jobs goes to Macworld and he pulls out this iPhone. What was your first reaction when you saw that?
$500 fully subsidized with a plan? I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine.
Yeah, worst email machine ever. The guy was like, everyone's texting during my talk last time. Yeah, terrible keyboard. Like that confidence is really, I don't know, you could say it bit him in the ass. I guess he owns a basketball team, but whatever. It didn't work out, I guess. And then to bring it a little closer, like I wanted to talk about a time that I fucked up because I was too confident. It wasn't as cute as that. No one said, aw. That was, we'll do it one more time for all, yeah. I like how like someone knows how she looks up at her owner, like, I'm so sorry. We didn't win, right? So there was a moment where, so when I first started at Etsy, I was working on this project where we were revamping the item review system, you know, like the rating you give to things you've bought on Etsy. And the old system was super busted and broken, but the seller community at Etsy, really, they understood that broken system really well, and they knew how to kind of game it really well. And so any change to that system was going to be probably like a PR nightmare no matter what, and so we were trying to play, as we built it, we were trying to keep that really close to the vest because we didn't want to accidentally ship it without a good PR plan and really thinking through how we would message it. And so I was working on this code. I was kind of implementing the design in code, and I was putting it behind what we call a feature flag, which kind of protects it from users seeing it. This is a way of doing the code without actually having customers have to experience it. And I wrote this. I just built the UI. I see someone cringing right there about what's about to happen. So I'm building the UI, and I'm I'm just going to deploy it, and then I'm really hungry. And it's behind a feature flag, so whatever. So I just deploy it, and I walked away, and I went to lunch for an hour. Turned out it wasn't behind a feature flag. It had actually been deployed to everyone. I came back to my desk to like messages in Slack, well, IRC at the time, but like what we had is Slack at the time, emails going like, there are some forum threads where sellers are saying they're seeing star ratings on the website. Do we have star ratings on the website? We did not have star ratings on the website. That was my feature. And I was like, holy crap, what happened? I went and looked, and there it is, like, shipped to everyone, like, just this like, UI, it's static, it's just sitting there, and there's these forum threads, like, tens of pages long, with, like, they're changing the review system, freaking out, right? And I have to, like, pull it back, and it's because I didn't actually check with anybody. I didn't do a code review, I didn't ask anybody just to check it out and make sure I was right. Like, I just was like, oh, it's behind a feature flag, feel super confident, push it. Totally got hosed. Would never do that again. So I learned that like through all these experiences that the fear is good for you, which at first is really tough to accept because it feels so bad. Like we're told all our lives that we need to like exude more confidence, that we need to strive to be the best, to be perfect all the time. And we take that to mean that we should know what we're doing and we should make people think we know what we're doing. And it actually assumes that other people know what they're doing too, like someone like me or like my boss or our CEO like has a ton of confidence, ton of experience, they know what they're doing, like they don't really worry about this stuff because they're so expert at what they're doing. But the truth is that like every successful person has the fear. In fact, my own boss, who's like probably the smartest woman I've ever met in my entire life, like has talked to me many times about the things she's uncertain about or like the things that she's worried about in her own job. And that's really interesting to me because like she's the smartest person I've ever met. So like if she's worried about it, then I should be okay worrying about stuff too. And like I said, like what about the confidence thing, right? Because that doesn't really go away. Like don't I need to be confident for my team? Like doesn't everyone want to be more confident, to feel more like they know what they're doing? And I think what people fail to mention with this word is that like the fear is what gives you confidence. Confidence that like you don't know everything. And confidence that like you're a human being and that you're going to mess it up, or you might miss something or forget something. And when you know this about yourself, you can start to mitigate that by being more open about the fears you have and about like the fact that you might miss something or that you might not be perfect. And kind of unintuitively, I find that this has built a lot of trust for me with the people I manage and the teams that I work with. For instance, like when I first started at BuzzFeed, obviously like the design team didn't know me at all. I didn't know them very well. Like there was no trust built up between us whatsoever. And I wanted to change a lot of stuff. I wanted to change stuff about how we worked. I wanted to change stuff about like what people were accountable for, expectations about people's jobs. And I definitely worried that the changes I wanted to make might not work. They were things I'd seen work, but what do I know? Like it's a new team. Like it could be a completely different thing. So when I talked to my team in the first week, I gave them like this talk and like, these are some of my notes from that talk, that's some of the things I said to them. And like, you don't have to read it, but like the long and short of it is like, I told them that like, we're gonna change things, but you need to tell me if something's wrong. Like it's totally likely that stuff I'm gonna ask us to do might not be the right thing to do. And I need you to tell me when that happens so we can change it. And I think this is very different than a lot of leaders and managers, like things they do because they feel like a lot of people hold on to bad process and they hold on to bad like things that are happening in their team because they implemented it and because that's like confidence. Like they need to like exude that they made the right decision. And I think that that's kind of stupid and actually like doesn't build trust for you and doesn't make you a better leader. Another example is like we have these product design roles that we put on GitHub. Actually, they're public, you can go check them out. So we put all of our role documentation online and we revise it every year based on feedback from the designers, stuff we've seen in annual and mid-year reviews, that kind of thing. And I think again, like with this kind of thing, a lot of leaders like would take this, they'd rewrite it and they would ship it. Like they'd be like, cool, here you go. Like made some changes, like updated it based on new things, like here you go. But what I realized is like the people that, like, the designers know more than I do about how this doc works. Like they're the ones who are impacted by it. They use it, they look at it, they care about it. And so they know way more than I do. Like I actually worried, the reason we're revising it at all is because I worry that it's not right, that like something might be amiss or be too vague or whatever. So I wrote them this email that you shouldn't try to read. I zoomed in on the right part for you. Now this isn't the codified, I sent this email, I was like, here's a version. This is not it. This is not the version. Like I need your feedback before we do make it the official version for at least the rest of this year. If you see something that's unclear, you disagree with, that like isn't going to help you, isn't actionable, like please let me know. And I would show you, but there's a very long email thread after this with many designers giving me feedback on this. And what's funny is like it doesn't mean I took all the suggestions. Like I'm allowed to have an opinion and to like debate with people what I think is right and true. But like me being worried that what my like first instinct was isn't right, like made the document better. Like actually we made a lot of changes to this document based on this feedback, and like it actually is better than it's ever been before. And I want to go through the last example, which is like, so for the last 2 years, we've had this design offsite, which is my hack for getting rid of my biggest fears every year, where like we tackle topics that like basically I'm worried about. That I'm like, here are my biggest things that like just keep me up all night, and we're going to talk about those things. So with designers and managers there. So stuff like, are we promoting people in a fair and justifiable way? Like, this is something that keeps me up at night. We talked about it at the offsite. Like, we came to some conclusions. We came up with things to do. Are we setting goals like consistently with people? Like, are they helpful goals? Like how can we do that better? Are our hiring practices good enough? Like, if you're not questioning that, you probably should. I realized that we have no established way of training designers on specific design skills, but turns out might be important for a design team. And that was very nerve-wracking for me, so I brought that up. And so we've held this for a couple of years, and we share all the results with the design team. It's a mix of designers and managers that come and give feedback and talk to us about, again, like all of my crazy worries that I think about all the time. And every year, like simply by being open about it, the things that I'm like nervous about, I get to collaborate with designers and managers on the solutions. I don't have to sit and come up with them on my own. I can guarantee you that whatever I would come up with by myself would be way worse than anything that like we come up with together, because I was just willing to share that I was worried about it. So I guess to summarize, like the fear actually makes your work better, and the fear makes you better. And while it feels like fear, like in the moment, these 15 like moments, like that's 3 times a week, by the way. Can we have a moment for that? That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was worrying about stuff. I think it's better to frame these thoughts as maybe like thoughtful moments and not fearful ones, which actually isn't so dark, I guess. So this is nice. I'm tricking myself right now. So when you experience like the feeling that you're like wrong, or that you like fucked up or whatever, remind yourself that like that fear is just helping you be more thoughtful and to maybe get a second opinion, to like maybe it's helping you take a risk, but maybe with care, like more care than you would otherwise. And it's reminding you to be a better collaborator to other people, and to help you like lead your teams, or like even if you're not a manager, to lead your teams in a caring and thoughtful way. That's it.
First, I just want to say you matter. Second, up to Q&A. Actually, I have one for you. Something I'm not sure we actually covered design driven before, which is training designers on specific design skills. It was just kind of a small thought there.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit more. Because that's something that you are doing right now.
Yeah. So let's see. So we've never really formalized it, to be honest with you. We have very specifically had certain people with certain goals or like certain skill sets that we want to improve, that like, particularly actually the managers, Tom Harmon, who's not here tonight, and then Sabrina, who recently left BuzzFeed, both like kind of took their own tack on. And so one example would be Tom ran this very kind of beautiful like visual design workshop with a couple of designers. Started with one and then expanded it to more, where he did things like have them take photos of subway advertising, just critique it, and then move on to like, okay, well, let's redesign this subway ad, or then like moving on to like go down the street and pick up a menu from this restaurant and come back and like let's redesign this menu, and it kind of just like had this very nice arc to it, and people got better at their jobs because of it. Sabrina actually, I haven't looked through all of her. She has a lot of documentation on this actually. We had someone named Hannah Carpenter who was on the IT team, and she came to me and asked to be on the product design team. She was really interested in that. And obviously, like, she didn't have like the experience yet or the skills necessary to like join the team, but we were dedicated. We were like, okay, well, like, let's make the time and figure this out. And so Sabrina, who's awesome, like took her on for 6 months and like came up with a curriculum basically that she gave to her, and like helped her work through problems, like gave her real BuzzFeed problems to solve, and like it all culminated in an actual like real like tangible shippable product at the end. That she like, so she did this 6-month like part-time thing where we worked with her manager to make the time, and she's now on the product design team as associate designer, and she's awesome. And so we've had these individual successes, and like this is actually, that question was from this recent like offsite that we did, and I'm still thinking about it, and how to kind of like just like codify that, and how can we make it more real and more accessible for people on the team. Better now.
I sort of have a two-part question.
Yeah.
I also tend to book myself back to back. I'm pretty comfortable with failing and embracing my cues. So being that I book myself back to back, I have very little time for failure. I have a very small window to recover. How do you approach that error? And more specifically, how do you approach that error when you don't want to let someone down, when that error is affecting someone else, because it seems as though you care about how they feel and you want to be useful and satisfying?
Sure. So it's a good question. I tend to block out time for myself. Like that's something that's on my, like I have certain blocks of time that I know are mine that I give to myself, which is kind of nice. So it looks that way sometimes, but I also have here and there blocks of things I do. Or I have things, actually, here's the other weird trick. I leave stuff on my calendar that I don't actually have to go to so that no one can book that time. So I'm like, no, I'm busy, sorry. And they just find me sitting at my desk. It's just like, it's a little messed up. Yeah, and then like whenever I impact somebody else, I don't know, like I feel like, I don't know if this is just because I've been doing this a little while or something, but I always know for sure that I did it, like that I've impacted somebody in like a maybe not positive way, or like that I'm stressing somebody out. Mostly that I'm stressing somebody out. And I usually just go talk to them immediately and just am like, hey, you seem stressed out, I'm so sorry about that. And then we talk through it and it's fine. I don't know, I don't really, I don't know, I don't let things sit, I guess. I think maybe that's a function of not having time, is that like, well, if I let this sit, it's gonna be a week, and then it's gonna be worse, or like, or even worse, too late for me to like do anything about it. So I tend to like try to get things like pretty quick as they come and react quickly. So I don't know if that answers your question. Hi.
Is there something in common that you before, like whether it's Serena or
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things, and this goes for designers too. I feel like we built this team around these concepts, and I think they work really well. Curiosity is something that I think is really important. We work on a lot of weird stuff here, like stuff that like comes up out of nowhere or changes really quickly, and I think like the ability for people, I mean, kind of like to the flexibility point, but I think it kind of pushes more, I think curiosity kind of covers it more, because curious people are always willing to jump on something new and try something else, or learn something they didn't learn before, and they'll do it quickly and they're very good at it. And then like just like, I don't know, I don't know how we did this. This is an accident, like we don't really screen for this, but like just empathetic people who like don't compete with each other is just like we have a design team, I don't know how we did this because I know the other team's not like this, they don't compete with each other, they don't, like there's no, like everyone's always helping each other. Like, and I don't know where that comes from, like I don't know why that's true. I think it's just like we've happened to hire really amazing people who like, they're all here, so this is really nice for them probably. We've hired really amazing people who just will drop everything to help each other and support each other and make sure each other's like taken care of. And like we have a really strong like internal culture for that. And like I said, I can't take credit for that. I don't actually know where that comes from. It's mostly from them. I think we've just gotten really lucky with it. Behind you, Dan.
I'm wondering if anyone's actually just straight up told you, like, yes, you are doing a bad
That's some shit I tell my therapist. Let's see. That's a good question. I feel like whenever that's happened, that's definitely happened. And I feel like when it's happened, I've known. Like I'm not like surprised that I'm doing a bad job, and I'm probably already telling somebody I think I did a bad job at this. It's definitely happened. I feel like this maybe won't answer your question totally, but I also feel like the things that I'm really good at are the things that I struggle with simultaneously, if that makes sense. So one example would be, so when I worked at Etsy, I got this feedback, and this is like amazing. It was like our annual review, and I got like, my manager's giving me my feedback, and he's like, we'll start with the positive stuff. And I was like, great, sounds awesome. And he was like, everyone really likes that they always just like, they never have to wonder what you're thinking, right? Like they don't have to like play, they don't feel like you play games with, it's not bureaucratic, right? You can just, they can get a straight answer from you. They're not like worried that like you're gonna tell them something and then like go tell someone something else. Like you shoot straight. And I was like, great, like I'm glad people appreciate that. And then the very next thing was like, let's talk about critical feedback. And it was like, people don't like that they always know what you think. Those were the exact words, you guys. It was like, and I was like, yeah? And he's like, yeah, I mean, everybody just wishes maybe you could be a little more like, diplomatic. I was like, isn't that the opposite of what I was doing? What you said I was good at? And so like, I think this is something I notice a lot where people are really good also at the thing they struggle with. And so I think I've gotten better over time at realizing the things that I am going to do well and the things that I wouldn't do well, and to just basically decline the things I'm not going to do well and like make that the reason. Like I don't think that I would do this like to a standard that would be like my standard or like a standard that BuzzFeed would want. And that happens a lot more actually than me being told I'm doing a bad job now, is like me just like preemptively going like, I'd be terrible at this, like please don't make me do it. And so that's been pretty successful. So, sure.
What did you learn about giving effective design feedback? And so, you can forget it into two different categories. It's helpful, but I'm curious, how do designers give other designers good feedback, and how do non-designers give feedback?
That's a good question. I feel like designers give each other the best feedback when they're being direct. I feel like there's this propensity of designers to like do the shit sandwich. We've all heard of this, right? Like, oh, this is so nice, and also you fucked it up. And like it's just like, this is not good. That's not good. And so that getting rid of that, and I think like again, like it really helps to like be building an empathetic team. Again, the like lack of competition, the rewarding of supporting each other and stuff like that leads to like even critical feedback being useful and not being perceived as like an attack. Because that's the worst thing that can happen. And so I find being direct, and I mean, have people heard of this idea of radical candor? Has everybody heard about this? So it's this idea that like people should communicate directly but with empathy, and it doesn't work without it. Like so, like if you're just direct, you're an asshole, and people don't listen to you. But if people know you care about them and you give them direct feedback, they're more likely to listen to you. There's a great talk on this on the internet. You just Google radical candor if you haven't done that. And then non-designers to designers, I think designers actually hold most of the keys to that, because they can help direct that conversation, and like the skill you have to develop is knowing what to do with the input and how to like process it. Because it's really easy to get a bunch of feedback from like an executive, like we've had executive reviews sometimes about things we've done, and like, and that can come like, you can have 3 executives telling you 3 very different things, and you have to be able to kind of process that and understand it and ask the right questions, and that's just a skill you have to develop. I don't know that the burden should be on someone else to figure out, like I don't have to figure out how to give a salesperson feedback, right? Like I can like talk to them about what I think might be happening, and they have to explain to me, actually they need to direct me the right way about how to like respond to the stuff we're doing. And so I don't feel like the burden should be on them to do that. It should be on us to figure it out, so. Thanks.